update you on the partnership between the Aspinall Foundation and DCM Surfaces. It is a partnership that we're exceptionally proud of, and most importantly, very, very thankful for. So I just want to start off by thanking all of you on the call. Sure, some of you are employed by DCM, some of you are part of the management team of DCM, and some of you are clients of DCM or in some way affiliated to DCM. And on behalf of the Aspinall Foundation, I just really want to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation for the support that you've shown our foundation over the last, call it, 16 months. And what I'm about to show you, I hope, will be mind-blowing for you in terms of what you have all done and achieved over this period of time, because in some way you've all supported these objectives in the field, and you've really unlocked these projects and really allowed us in the field to be able to do a lot more work as the Aspinall Foundation. So the purpose of today's presentation is just really to provide you with an overview of the foundation, and then really to give you an idea of what projects our partnership has really facilitated over the last 16 months. And I think it'll be hopefully very impressive with what has been achieved, and I'll talk a bit more about the partnership a bit later in the presentation. So just briefly, what do we do as the Aspinall Foundation? So the Aspinall Foundation really looks at three things as our core. First thing is rewilding captive animals. And historically, the Aspinall Foundation has been going for 36 years strong. And historically, we've been known for releasing and rewilding captive animals. And we are strongly opposed to animals being in captivity. And we believe that if animals are in captivity, they should be serving a conservation purpose. Secondly, and that's very much specific for South Africa and a few other regions in the world, we look at emergency rescues, where we facilitate a lot of emergency work. As an example, that lion on the right of the screen that you are seeing there, that lion was rescued from a facility called SEAVIEW Predator Park in Port Elizabeth on our east coast in South Africa. And it was just a really terrible facility. They didn't put the right lions at the correct lions. Obviously, being in a captive space, you've got to be very careful on which individuals you place with other individuals. And this lion was in fact attacked by other lions, and we had to mobilize to rescue him, stitch him up, and he's doing a hell of a lot better. And then thirdly, what we do is we look at taking on landscapes and managing areas, because obviously we can't just release animals into areas that we don't actually know and aren't managed. So, you know, we try best to manage areas and manage habitats to further rewild animals. And then parts and parcel to this, and really underlying what we do, is ensuring that rural and local communities benefit from these projects, because at the end of the day, they are the custodians of these animals. And we go out of our way to ensure that jobs are created, and wherever possible that we can incorporate communities into these rewilding projects, either through monitoring programs or contributions in terms of use of land or whatever it might be. And the bottom line is that the life and soul of every animal matters, and that's in essence the what we focus on. And with the support that DCM has provided to us and the ongoing commitment that you have all shown to us, has really unlocked a lot of this potential for us. So just as an overview, our projects across the world, as you can see, it's quite diverse. I'll start up in the UK. We've got Howletts and Port Lim, which is our two wild animal parks. Those parks came from the very beginning of the foundation, and it was started by John Aspinall, and it is now run by our chairman, Damien Aspinall. And these two wild animal parks are really there to breed animals for the purposes of releasing into the wild and supplement endangered species in the natural environment. So, for example, if you look around the globe there, we've got the Congo and Gabon projects, which we protect over 1 million acres, which is about 400,000 hectares. And that is specifically to release and rewild gorillas. So we have successfully rewilded over 70 lowland gorillas back into the wild. We're very proud of that project. And along with that, we've preserved a host of other animals, including forest elephants, leopards, the ongoing, the list goes on. We've released East African or Eastern black rhino back into Africa. We've done 8 of them, but their progeny has produced up to, I think it's about 35 animals to date. We are one of the biggest breeders of black rhino outside of Africa, and we are basically releasing these animals back into the wild on an ongoing basis. We've done work in Indonesia, where we've released over 150 langurs, gibbons. Madagascar, we've done lemurs. And then obviously South Africa, which I'm really going to be focusing on today, is where we're doing a lot of the rescue and also a lot of rewilding work of Southern African species. My specific role is to look after the Southern African component and then also moving into East Africa. So you can see it's a very diverse range of projects that we take on, and the relationship with DCM has really been all about that left arm there, which is the emergency rescues and translocation. So just a bit about the history of the partnership between DCM and ourselves. I think one of our team members, Stuart, was driving down the road one day and he saw the beautiful branding that you had on one of your vehicles. And if I'm not mistaken, it was a rhino, an elephant, on one of the DCM vehicles that were driving around the UK. And he got a hold of Beverly, and we started the discussions around, what role could DCM play in conservation in Africa. And what we've basically produced, and when I say we, it's more from a DCM point of view, is probably, I've been involved in conservation now probably for the last 18 years, and it's one of the more successful private partnerships that we've ever had, which has allowed us to do a huge amount of work going forward, because the support that is provided really gets onto the ground. 100% of it goes to the animals. None of it really goes to salaries or overheads in the foundation, purely going to the rescue of these animals. So as I mentioned, the relationship's been going on for about 16 months now, and we are really thrilled to have achieved what we have. And I'm going to start directly into the program with the first project we took on as a partnership. And like I said, when I say it's about a partnership, it's not just about the financial support that is provided, but it's the ongoing commitment from all of the team and the staff. It's about the awareness that these projects create. And I hope that after this presentation today, you will really feel proud of what you've achieved, and also go out and spread the word in terms of the plight of animals in Africa, and also what can be achieved by a partnership like this. And from my point of view, it is a blueprint of what a partnership should be, with private sector getting directly involved and making a tangible difference in conservation. So I'll cut straight to the point. The first project is the TEMBE TUSKER program, and this is the first project that we took on as a partnership. Now, TEMBE Elephant Park is located on the eastern or northeastern part of South Africa. It's right on the border between South Africa and Mozambique, pretty much on our east coast. And TEMBE is known for the tusks that the elephants have. And it's one of the few populations left in Africa with tusks, as you can see with these two elephants here. And there's loads of these type of elephants in TEMBE. These are just photos of two of them, but even the cows have got beautiful tusks. And, you still find tuskers in Amboseli, you still find a few tuskers in Kruger, but other than that, there's not many tuskers left in Africa. So we embarked on a program to try and take these genetics and infuse it into other reserves. And what we are finding in some areas, like in Botswana and Zimbabwe, and it was a localized problem where a lot of elephants, like up to 200 elephants, died in a certain area due to a bacteria in the water. And we thought that, what if that happens in TEMBE? We could lose this entire population, and along with that goes these amazing genetics for these tuskers. So we started a program where we said, let's start moving these genetics into other reserves and create more populations where these tuskers occur. So with your support as DCM, last year, we moved 4 beautiful bulls. As you can see, the top left there was one of the bulls that we moved, an amazing animal. And along with 7 cows, or a family group of 7 animals. And this was the first time that a family group of elephants had ever been moved out of TEMBE, and they were moved to a reserve called PINDA Private Game Reserve. It's probably about 120 kilometers away from TEMBE, very well protected reserve. And hopefully these animals will go on to make more tuskers down the line, and at least we can be rest assured that the genetics of the tuskers live on in other populations. It's a part of an ongoing program. We've also committed to, in partnership with DCM, to a few more elephants in the upcoming months, where we'll be moving more bulls into other reserves. which we're very excited about. The one reserve is a 20,000 hectare community game reserve that is accepting the elephants. So we're going to move a few bulls into that community reserve to ensure that the genetics get dispersed. Very, very successful project. The elephants are all doing exceptionally well in the new homes. And also it has reduced the pressure in that reserve. What we find in South Africa is that the populations of elephants are in fenced areas, and that makes it quite difficult to manage the populations. So by moving these elephants, we've also reduced population pressures. Along with that, we've achieved other rescue missions. Snaring is a major problem in Southern Africa, and I guess in Africa generally. So we've mobilized on a number of different snaring projects. So what will happen is on a weekly basis, I'll get a phone call, there's an elephant with a snare, we mobilize a vet, a helicopter, and we actually go and secure the lives of these elephants by removing the snares. As you can see in the top photo there, sometimes the snares are really bad, but the elephants manage to survive. The bottom photo there with all those elephants lying down, we actually secured those elephants. There's 13 of them that we rescued in Mozambique to a new home. They actually had killed somebody in Mozambique, and the government was going to shoot them, and we had to mobilize to actually rescue those elephants. The young elephant in the top above the group of elephants lying down, that baby actually during that operation stopped breathing. Sometimes they respond negatively to the drugs. And fortunately, we have a really good vet team, and we managed to save that baby's life, and he's now running around Aspinall National Park in Mozambique. The bottom right photo is on an ongoing basis, elephants are breaking out of reserves in Africa, and we basically send helicopters to actually go and chase those elephants back into the reserves that they came from. So as you can see, never a shortage of elephant work in South Africa, and with DCM support, we are able to mobilize immediately, and that makes us very unique because, as you can see, this is not about something where we can put it off for a week or two. That animal will die, and what this has done for us, it's actually allowed us to mobilize immediately and give those animals the help that they need urgently. And I think between our partnerships now, we've done with the DCM partnership, we've done over 50 elephants in the last year. So something to really be proud of. Then again, it's not just about the big stuff. We say from big to small, we rescue them all. And, you know, we really go where it's needed. We often get calls from various places where animals are in captivity, they need help, or in wild environments. And I'm just going to mention 3 of them here, but we've literally done, I think it's about 80 different rescues and releases with the small animals. The top left is 2 vultures, one whiteback vulture and one Cape vulture at a very bad breeding facility. We moved in, rescued those birds. Those birds were both double their body weight, what they should be. They couldn't fly. We've now put them on the right diet, and we're going to be releasing those birds very soon. Blackback jackal on the right there, also very poor conditions. We've now rewilded those jackals. They're contributing to a new population. The bottom left is a leopard. So the big challenge in South Africa at the moment is space. Conservation space is very far and few between. So leopards, they are free roaming, and they often get caught in farmers' cage traps. That specific leopard was caught in a farmer's cage trap. Again, if we don't mobilize within 24 to 48 hours, that animal would die simply because it's caught in a cage trap, it's dehydrated, it's in the sun, or often the farmers shoot them if we don't get there quick enough. So that leopard was rescued. So this is real, tangible rescue work. And what I can tell you is that the animals that I've shown you so far would have died without this partnership, which is very meaningful. Big thing that we have in South Africa at the moment, I'm sure you've all heard of the plight of pangolins. We've rescued about 5 pangolins as the partnership, and we're not necessarily a specialized veterinary unit in terms of the vets that treat these pangolins, but we are specialists in terms of responding to these pangolins at risk. So where an elephant or a pangolin is caught up in a electric fence somewhere, like in that top photo, the helicopter, we go and fetch that pangolin, because at the moment, every pangolin matters. The bottom picture there, pangolin was put in an aircraft simply because the city that the pangolin was rescued in from poachers was basically circled by a bus strike. So we couldn't get that pangolin out. So we actually had to fly the pangolin to the veterinary team. And this is what's happening on an ongoing basis. So it shows you what we need to do on a daily basis to secure these animals. And we're getting to a point where we literally need to fly them to get support. And that's just due to the numbers that we have. And this is why this is a huge find of a couple of tons in Indonesia. It equates literally to thousands of pangolins. And like we always say, you don't actually see pangolins in the bush in South Africa. I think I've seen pangolins in the wild 3 times. And the question is, where are the poachers finding all of these pangolins? I mean, it's thousands of pangolins that are being caught in these bags. And it's basically they take the scales and they sell the scales to the east. And that's for whatever medicinal purpose they believe in, which actually doesn't make any sense because it's got no medicinal value. It's basically like your fingernail, same as rhino horn, it's got no medicinal value whatsoever, but it's part of what the East believes in. So this is why we need to secure pangolins. Rhinos, I'm sure you've all heard about the rhino plights in South Africa. And again, we step in where it's most needed. These rhinos were all at risk. The top rhino was shot. We went in, removed the bullets. That rhino survived. You can see the top right picture. Sorry, it's a bit of a brutal photo, but it's reality. That top right picture is the actual bullet that we took out of the rhino. Bottom pictures were rhinos that we rescued. And it was one of the first rescue projects that we did with DCM after the elephant project. We actually moved in to rescue these 3 rhinos. And these rhinos were caught in a reserve that was basically being taken over by communities, and they were being burnt down, and the whole reserve was being burnt down in that. And we weren't sure what the future of these rhinos were, so we actually had to send a helicopter in. We couldn't get ground crews in. As you can see, the guys that are working with the rhino had the bulletproof vests on because we couldn't actually get to the rhino. So we had to chase them out of the reserve with helicopters and then catch them outside the reserve on tar roads. So often it is hostile environments that we operate within. But at the end of the day, we rescued those 3 rhino and they had a place of safety now contributing to the population. And it's an ongoing story. The top left picture there, this was 2 weeks ago, where this was the last rhino remaining in a reserve in South Africa. There was 20 rhino there. When I was doing field guide training, I still remember tracking 20 rhino in this reserve. There was 1 left and the government couldn't look after him anymore, so we had to move him. That reserve no longer has rhino. And that is an ongoing issue in South Africa. We were losing reserve after reserve after reserve that are just letting go of their rhinos because they can't protect them anymore. One of the major projects that we have with DCM is a collaring project and dehorning project. Collaring project is in Zimbabwe, where we're securing a host of black and white rhinos in Zimbabwe by collaring them. Those collars at the bottom basically get put on their legs, and it allows us to use VHF or radio telemetry equipment to find the rhinos, because what you can't see, you can't manage. So that allows the field rangers to find the rhinos every morning and stay with the rhinos during the day and most of the time in the evenings as well. It just changes the game a bit. And on the right, we actually are now dehorning rhinos in South Africa. So you can see it as horn trimming or horn trimming. We remove the rhino's horn just simply to remove the reward for poachers. It doesn't have a long-term effect on the rhinos, and the horns do grow back. They grow back about between 500 to 750 grams of horn a year. So, it's pretty much all the reserves in South Africa are dehorning. Kruger Park is dehorning, Pilanesberg, all of the, pretty much everybody's dehorning, just simply because we can't keep up anymore with the impact of poaching. So with DCM, we've dehorned a number of rhino, a few notable ones. There was 1 rhino left in an area just outside of Kruger. It had moved basically from Kruger into an area where there was basically, there's only 1 waterhole. And it was 1 rhino that had been left from the dehorning, because when you dehorn rhino, you've got to dehorn the whole population. And there was just this 1 rhino that must have been missed. And what the poachers do is they sit at the waterhole and they wait for that rhino to come drink water, and they shoot the rhino at the waterhole. So we were basically limited for time. Got a helicopter in the afternoon, flew and dehorned that rhino, and again, saving his life or her life. So this is an ongoing battle. We do this pretty much on a bi-weekly basis. And again, it's about our ability to respond to emergency situations immediately, and that's what makes us unique. On the other side of things, where we work with captive areas, so what I've pretty much shown you now so far has been very much wild environments. And these animals were all rescued from 1 captive facility called SEAVIEW Predator Park. So SEAVIEW Predator Park was a really badly managed facility. And how it all started off was one of the tigers actually jumped a fence and killed one of the workers at the facility. And the government wanted to shoot the tiger. We went in, did an assessment, and realized that none of the fences were working. they put a female in heat next to the male, which you don't do. So the male basically jumped the fence, which wasn't working. The guy was in the way, killed the guy, and then tried to get to the female. So we rescued the tiger, and then we realized there was a much bigger issue. And we have now successfully closed the place down, and we've moved over 35 animals out of SEAVIEW. And they're all in better places, and the animals that we could send back to the wild, we sent back to the wild. So a very successful story, and DCM was very instrumental in making that possible. And you can see it's beautiful animals that have all been rescued out of that process. Crocodiles, very unique project, a new project that we've started about 3 months ago. Again, there's a lot of crocodile farmers in South Africa, and often the crocodile dams break, and then the crocodiles in all of the river systems in some areas, they're crossing tar roads, they're getting into areas where they shouldn't be, and we often get called in to go and collect these crocodiles. But we also conscious release crocodiles into any system, because then we also get criticized. No good deed goes unpunished, as they say. And we can't just release crocodiles into any environment. And where we do, we've got to track that crocodile to prove to the communities in the area and to government that these crocodiles aren't actually problem animals. We're not basically moving one problem from one place to another. So what we do is, well, let me first start. You can see we get the crocodiles from a very much a captive area. Once they've been caught in the precarious positions, we then move them to a very natural environment, like in the top left there. We release them into this beautiful system where there's lots of fish and prey base. But what we do is we actually fit them with tracking units. So that's a satellite tracking unit that fits on the base plate of the back of the crocodile. And what you see on the right is actually the GPS software that we use to track the crocodiles. So if in the system a dog gets taken out by a crocodile, we can prove that our crocodiles weren't in that area at that given time, proving that these animals are not problem animals that we're moving from one area to another. Obviously, once we've proved our point, we won't need to put GPS units on every single crocodile, but we are proving that these animals can be safely relocated. And obviously, we want to make sure that the animals survive where they are, because some of them have never been in a wild environment. But I can safely say that we've done 18 crocodiles now, and they've all survived. So it shows that these animals can be taken from a very captive environment and released in a wild environment quite successfully. So that's interesting. We did a lot of cheetah work. So the cheetah on the left, that's one of the cheetahs in Zimbabwe that we released from Canada. We actually moved those cheetahs over before the partnership started with DCM, but DCM has now been supporting us with the veterinary work on those cheetahs. So what we did with those cheetahs is we took them from basically playing in the snow with cardboard boxes in Canada. We put them in a reserve in Zimbabwe, and you won't believe it, but they started hunting within the first 12 hours of being released. So we had them in an enclosure for 30 days, and then we released them into the reserve, and they'd already hunted within 12 hours, and we haven't fed them since. They've been there now for 2 years. We have not fed them once. So it just shows animals, a cheetah that has never seen an impala or a blesbok or any of these animals immediately started hunting impala and have been successful ever since. It's been such a success that we're now moving them to a bigger reserve, and we're going to bring more cheetahs into this project. And then on the right, we often need to fetch cheetahs from very precarious positions. So we actually place them on the back seat of the helicopter. We don't have time to drive around with a crate or anything, so we knock them out and put them on the back seat of the helicopter, and the vet and the pilot fly them to wherever they need to be in the reserve. So that cheetah was specifically rescued in the Kalahari, and when we dropped off in the reserve, she managed to escape somehow, and we had to go and fetch her. And that's basically the picture that you see there. But she's doing much better now. And it does happen sometimes where there's a warthog hole under the fence and the cheetah breaks out. We can't be everywhere at once. So that's a very unique story. But yeah, so you can see, and again, a very endangered species. We're making a big impact on that. Obviously, the small stuff matters as well. We also deal with a lot of cute animals, as you can see there, bush babies, white-tailed mongoose, genets. And through the partnership, we probably released about 50 of this type of species, not so much endangered, but very much needed, from an ecosystem point of view. So we often move these animals from places where they were orphans, either their parents were killed, often in urban environments, and we release them into different open spaces. to contribute to population. So we work with some really nice species as well in that regard. Black-footed cats, some of the most ferocious cats you've ever seen. Also, one of the most successful hunters in the world when it comes to cats. Very much, not much is known about these cats, so we're actually breeding them for release, and DCM is assisting us with the monitoring of these cats on an ongoing basis. So the black-footed cats, it's a very rare species in South Africa. It's tiny, it's one of the smallest cats we have, but don't make no mistake, they are absolutely brutal when it comes to hunting. And you can actually Google them after the webinar. It's actually a very interesting read. So no, we're very happy with this progress. We started the project with 4 black-footed cats. We're now on 14, and we're going to release 2 in April. And then it's not just about rewilding, but it's also about establishing new populations, and I'm almost done. So what we did with this project is, in South Africa, we've got a big challenge with disease, and specifically buffaloes that carry disease and they pass them on to cattle. So it's very important to keep the buffalo that don't have diseases, to keep those populations going. So what we did was we actually moved 20 buffalo from one reserve, and we set up a whole new population in another reserve so that we can manage risk. And we're breeding those buffalo to ensure that we can actually populate other reserves with those buffalo. So DCM assisted us with all of the veterinary and the drug support on this project. So very successful. All the buffalo are happy in the new home and doing really, really well. And actually on top of this, we caught 4 hippo last week, Thursday. I haven't had the chance to put the photos in yet. I'm still busy processing them, but we caught 4 hippos in the same way. And we're moving them to Babanango to set up a new population there as well. The hippos were in a very bad position on the farm, about to be shot. We mobilized and rescued them. And then obviously we've got a continuous rewilding strategy in South Africa with all of these species. And, you know, we're hoping that 2023 is going to be a huge year. In short, with our DCM partnership, we've done over 130 animals just in this year alone. And we're hoping to do a lot better next year as well. So that was in a nutshell what we've done. We can talk a lot more. We can probably go on the whole day about what we've achieved together. But I just want to, from my side, thank you all for, once again, for all the support. I hope that you walk out of this webinar with a huge sense of pride for what you've achieved. I know I'm very proud of it. And yeah, I'm more than happy to take questions. I'm not sure if Beverly wants to mention anything now, but it was really in a nutshell. I think I'm a few minutes over, so apologies for that. But thank you very much for your time.
Great, thank you so much, Derek. I'm really delighted to be able to sort of welcome everyone to see what we're doing and the work that we're doing. And Derek and his team, we owe a huge gratitude to. It's so easy to just look at these pictures and feel sad, but actually people have got to do the work, and we really are happy to be able to contribute something. You guys are doing all the hard work. The least we can do is contribute to that, but this is just the beginning. Next year we're hoping that we can get everyone involved in a more hands-on way, and there will be opportunities for staff or clients to get more involved next year. So so thanks again, Derek. It's great to see all the work you're doing.
Thank you, Beverly, and really appreciate it.
No problem. Well, this whole thing will be recorded as well, so we'll be able to share with anybody who's missed it, which would be great, because it's like you said last week, it's the best kept secret what we've been doing for the last 16 months. So
Exactly, yeah, 100%. So I'm not sure if there's anybody with questions. I'm more than happy to answer 1 or 2 questions if there's anything.
Any questions?
There aren't any questions in the Q&A box at the moment, but perhaps if anyone has any afterwards, we'd be delighted to keep in touch and answer those via you, Beverly, or
yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, so we can wrap it up, and we'll be in touch very soon and look forward to more progress, Derek.
Thank you very much, Beverly. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for this opportunity.
Thanks, Fiona. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.